Welcome to another WDSU Hot Seat Debate. I'm Travers Mackel. Election Day, we all know, is November 8th, and tonight we are continuing our debates. We're focusing on the clerk of First City Court in New Orleans. This handles all of the processing, evictions for the court in the city of New Orleans when it comes to civil court and First City Court. Two people have qualified to run, both Democrats. Both are here tonight. One is the incumbent, one is the challenger. Austin Baddon and Donna Glapion. First off, thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us, Joe.
All right, we're going to get to a lot of questions. This is a very specialized office, so we have some focused questions. But first, we are going to give you all a chance to tell voters why you feel you're the best candidate for this job. Mr. Baddon, you can start us off. You have 60 seconds to make an opening statement.
Thanks, Travis. Good evening, everyone. I'm Austin Baddon, your clerk of First City Court. I've been serving in that position for 4 years now. During that time, I have reduced costs to the customers. I have decreased the cost and the wait time as far as getting into a courtroom. I have also increased the staff and given 2 pay raises to my staff. That it makes up 97% women. We have gotten rid of egregious contracts. We have eliminated corruption. We have totally modernized and reformed and made the office more safe and efficient. We have basically done everything right. It was broken and I fixed it. We have also gone and we have moved forward towards electronic filing. We have also kept every file on site right now, which decreased the cost to the taxpayers. I make sure we partner with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services so no tenant goes into court without representation. And we also partner with a company where we provide thousands of hours of free customer service to the public, and that's for senior citizens.
All right, Ms. Glapion, you have 60 seconds to make an opening statement.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Travers. My name is Donna Glapion, and I have entered this race for clerk of First City Court because I think there are some major improvements that still need to be made in that court. Primarily, it is 2022, and I believe that we need to be able to provide the citizens of this city electronic filing and digital access to files that already exist, just as it is in Civil District Court, in Jefferson Parish and other neighboring parishes. So I think the major thing, it was promised 4 years ago to bring the office up to date in terms of technology, just has not been done. That, along with my 30 years experience as an operations and administrative manager and my direct experience as chief deputy at Second City Court, along with my heart for service and a long history of community service in this city, I believe make me an ideal candidate for clerk of First City Court.
All right, perfect. Both of y'all wrapped up right at 60 seconds. We'll start this question with you, Ms. Glapion.
Yes.
60 seconds again. Evictions, a big topic. Yes. There was a moratorium during COVID-19. Judges are signing these orders. If elected, how will you work to manage the eviction process for not just the tenants, but also the landlords?
So absolutely. This court handles evictions, small claims up to $5,000. So in most of those cases, folks are self-represented. They don't have a lawyer present. So it's imperative that both the landlord and the tenants are clear about what their rights are, and also that both parties have the information they need to work through that process. One of the things that we have as a vision for this office is to provide video instructions for this office. As you may know, there's a fine line in this office between giving instructions, showing people how to go through the process, and giving legal advice. And we think that providing video instructionals for the community will absolutely help alleviate that problem, make sure that the tenants and the landlords know their rights, that all citizens can utilize this office in the most efficient way and in a way that is most efficient.
All right, same question, Mr. Baddon. If re-elected, how will you work to better manage evictions for tenants and for landlords?
Well, Travis, you've seen me on this station many times, especially going out to Joe Brown Park, helping thousands of tenants and landlords go through the eviction process. Because when you see those images on TV of people's belongings, those are real. That means that someone has been put out of their property. So last year in my office, we had 2,471 evictions. I can tell you this year we're already at 3,760. So we are up as far as evictions by 50%. So you see me out there educating people and making sure I utilize media contacts to basically say, don't get evicted, pay your rent, make sure you don't bring anybody else into the unit, and have a dialogue with your landlord. We also work with landlords to help them to get emergency rental assistance. I was screaming at the rooftops that the money should have gone directly to the landlords and not to the tenants, because that's who it's owed to. But also the other thing is, as far as warrants, we had a constable who was shot 2 weeks ago. Warrants are up right now, and we're only in the 10th month of the year.
This is a 30-second answer here. Let's talk about that situation, the tragic situation in New Orleans East. We'll start with you. In 30 seconds, if you were reelected, do you have a plan where you can better work with deputy constables or police about potential dangerous situations when it comes to evictions? In 30 seconds.
So right now, we actually do that through my office. We take in all of the information from the landlords. If they let us know and we ask questions, if that tenant is potentially dangerous, we forward that on to the constables to give them as much information as possible before they go into that environment. So we actually work with them, and we try to make sure that they have what they need before they go to that environment, because it's a law enforcement environment. I've gone on those warrant evictions, and basically you don't know what's on the other side of that door, so you have to be prepared. We give them that information.
Same question, Ms. Glapion. If elected, what would be your plan to work with deputy constables and police about potentially dangerous eviction situations?
Absolutely. Unless there in the hearing procedure is some occurrence that indicates that there may be some violence, there's really no way to know going into a situation whether someone will be violent when being faced with, as you say, being put out onto the street, their belongings removed by the constable. So there's no way to know that going in. But absolutely, we can work with the constable's office, with the police office as well, a police department as well, if there's any indication that there'll be an issue.
All right, we're going to come back to some questions in a second. We've done this recently, some yes, no here. We'll start with you, Ms. Glapion. Yes or no, have you signed the recall petition for Mayor LaToya Cantrell?
I have not.
Mr. Badon?
I believe that she deserves a second chance, and she is paying the money, curtailing her travel. I have not signed it.
Okay, we'll start this with you. Yes or no, was the U.S. Supreme Court right to strike down Roe versus Wade? Yes or no?
No, I don't believe they were right.
Ms. Glapion?
Absolutely not.
All right, we'll start this with you. Yes or no, a political question here. Can a Democrat win the governor's race in Louisiana next year?
Absolutely.
Mr. Badon?
I definitely believe that a Democrat could win the governor's race.
All right, let's get back to some questions here. We'll start this one with you, Mr. Badon. 60 seconds. If reelected, how can you better finance the operating budget of the office to make sure you're getting the most bang for the buck?
So right now, our operating expenditures are $2,685,000. The budget right now is $1,823,000. And I want to be able to get that gap closed up. And so what I want to do is I want to start a subscription service that is really being partake right now in civil district court, led by the clerk Chelsea Richard Napoleon, who is supporting me. And we want to start a subscription service so people could actually look at our files, they could download, they could actually make copies. Whether it's attorneys or litigants, they could do that. That would also help us. But I have done a lot to decrease the cost to the customers. We've decreased our storage files. We've decreased the cost to the customers as far as copying. We've got rid of egregious top-heavy contracts. So we have actually decreased the cost to the customers under my leadership.
All right, Ms. Glapion, if elected, same question in 60 seconds. How will you work to operate the budget to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck?
Absolutely. So the major thing that will mean a major efficiency in that office is absolutely moving to electronic filing. Right now, it's a cumbersome process. And of course, the manual process would always still be available to citizens that utilize the office. But right now, the step is you have to drive down, pay to park, fill out a manual form. The clerk in the office has to manually key it in. She has to manually receive your funds. Then she has to make a Xerox copy of your document and then give it back to you. And then at the very end, it's made into a case file for the judge when the hearing date comes up. Being able to file electronically and being able to access documents digitally would streamline that process. The customer would enter into all of that information. It would eliminate about 7 or 8 steps, and it means an efficiency both for the customer and in that office, because you're not spending hours each day processing one document.
All right, here's a 60-second answer for both of you all. It's the same question, but it's specific to each one of you all. Both of you all have picked up endorsements. Ms. Glapion, you have IWO, International Women's Organization, as well as the Congressman Troy Carter. Mr. Badon, you have Chelsea Richard Napoleon, as well as the Alliance for Good Government. We'll start this with you. How do your backgrounds, you who sat on the city council for a year filling the seat of Jason Williams, and your endorsements, how does that help you in this case, in this race, and in that office if you're elected in 60 seconds?
So right now I have the Independent Women's Organization. I'm the official candidate of the Democratic Party. I'm also endorsed by the AFL-CIO, as well as the New Orleans Coalition, Cool, Life, Soul, Clout, Noel, and IDEA. And so what those endorsements do is those networks that each of those organizations has, it means that they have entrusted me. They've said that they support me. They believe that I'm the best candidate. They've looked at both of our records, and they've said overwhelmingly in most of those cases, by 75 to 25%, that I'm the candidate that they're going to support, that the organization and their outgoing networks.
Mr. Badon, you have your fair share of endorsements as well, too. Like I mentioned, the Alliance for Government. What role does that play, and how does that help you in this race and if you're reelected to this office?
Endorsements are nice, but I'm here to let the people know that I'm specifically asking for your support. I'm not taking you for granted. I have worked my butt off and worked very hard, assembled a great staff that provides excellent customer service, people who I'm very proud of. Those are very nice to have, but a wise lady said, it's not what you say to people, it's how people remember you treat them. And people, when I see them on the street, they understand that I'm a down-to-earth person, I work hard, I go to work every day. You know, I'm happily married, I'm a family man, I'm a Christian man, I'm raising my son with my wife. We live in New Orleans East, so we are about this community and the fabric of the community. Endorsements are okay, but being there with the people and helping people on a first-hand basis. I had a guy came into my office and he told me, he said, you took a caterpillar and turned it into a butterfly. Because I go to work every day and I've made change and I've made our city and our state better by being the leader of this office.
All right, 30 seconds for this one. We're going to start this one with you. If you're reelected, how will you continue to work with the First City Court clerk? And do you support paid off-duty details for so many deputy constables in 30 seconds?
I am the clerk of First City Court.
If you're reelected as First City Court,
right.
Sorry.
So we will keep doing what we're doing and do it better. Every day we strive to be better than the previous day. I do support paid details for constables. You know, we have a lot of crime in this city and the surrounding areas, so we need to make sure that we put as much trained law enforcement on the street. But we cannot have another situation like a Second City Court constable not engaging in a sexual assault that was taking place in the French Quarter, saying he or she wasn't trained for that. So being able to put as much law enforcement on the street to protect our citizens is the way to go.
Same question. I apologize. I said clerk, not constable. Same question in 30 seconds. How will you work with the First City Court constable, Mr. Boissier, and do you support those deputy constables working paid off-duty details?
So absolutely would work with the constable in whichever way that would increase the training and effectiveness for how the constable's office works with the First City Court clerk's office to get everything processed through the system. I absolutely support those officers being able to do off-duty details as long as we know that they are trained properly. If there's some additional training that needs to happen, of course, we would support that as well.
All right. We want to give you all a chance to make a 60-second closing statement really quickly in about 20 seconds right here. In about 20 seconds, I know it's tough for all of us here because I talk a lot myself. In 20 seconds, do you vow, if elected, to try to set up technology where people can do things on their cell phone or their tablet because that's the way that that's the way the direction of technology is going here? In about 20 seconds, what is your answer to that?
Absolutely. That is the strongest tenet of why I've entered this race. 4 years ago, it was promised that the office would be brought up to date in terms of technology, and that simply has not happened. There's been no movement in that direction up until now. And so would absolutely move to advanced technology in that office, both being able to file online and being able to access documents digitally.
All right, same question, Mr. Bannon. In about 20 seconds, will you move to try to get people to do things on their cell phone and tablet, because that seems what everybody wants to do right now?
Yes, we are moving to that scenario. I think we should have it in place by January of 2023. We have people who are on staff right now who are specifically trained to help people. My concern with that is job loss. You know, you increase technology and you have more people filing, then the judges en banc might say you don't need as many people. And so, but I think it's something that we definitely need to move forward to.
All right, we could keep going, but we want to give you all a chance to make a robust close here. We started with you for the open, so we'll start with you, Ms. Glapion, for the close. You have 60 seconds to let people know why you feel you're the best candidate for this office.
Absolutely. I believe that I'm the best candidate in this race because I have over 30 years experience as an operations and administrative manager, and that's what it takes to run this office efficiently. It needs leadership that can get things done. In the past 4 years, there have been no movement with regard to electronic filing and digital access to files. We have currently a need that puts us behind pace with right in civil district court and in the neighboring parishes. In addition to that, I have direct experience. I've served as chief deputy clerk at Second City Court. There's also an issue, Mr. Badon just last year ran for another office. He promised 4 years ago that this was a job that he was dedicated to, that he would basically retire, that it was his dream job. But just 6 months ago, he ran for another office. So I would say I'm the best candidate to consider for this race.
All right, thank you, Ms. Glapion. We're going to let you respond to that, but I guess it's easy to let you respond because you are going to make a closing statement right here. So closing statement and response to that to wrap us up here, Mr. Badon.
Thanks again, Travis, for having me here again. To the people in New Orleans, I am your clerk of First City Court, Austin Badon, number 63 on the ballot. I've been doing this work for 4 years now. And, you know, Ms. Glapion attacks my record because she doesn't want you to know about her record, specifically her police record, being wanted by both the sheriff's offices in Baton Rouge as well as in St. Charles Parish, not owning property, not having a homestead exemption, basically, you know, having issues all the way from here to Mecklenburg, North Carolina. The other thing is, you know, having 2 criminal expungements on your record. How many do you have on your record? I have none. She served on the city council. She was appointed, not elected. She didn't do a darn thing to stop integity, and that's why you have high integity rates. So I have been doing the work. You know me, been out vaccinating homeless people, helping tenants and landlords, finding missing people like Carolyn Manette and Bayou St. John. You know my heart, and you know what I've been doing, and I ask you to help me to continue serving. I approve this message.
Really, really quickly, we are going to have to let you just respond
Absolutely.
to that really quickly, if you can respond to the allegations he just made.
Yes, Mr. Badon is basically insulted by the fact that I've brought up his professional record. He has a history over the past as a state legislator. He voted over 9 times against a woman's right to choose.
That has nothing to do with this office.
It absolutely does,
This office
Mr.
doesn't
Badon.
make policy.
It doesn't make policy.
It doesn't make laws.
But you have a
We do
history
3 things.
of running
we
for
basically
additional offices.
take in the fees,
You
we
ran
take in the pleadings,
for
and we
another
also are the
office
custodian
just
of the records.
not even
That was
6
it.
months ago. Not even 6 months ago. You
That
ran
has
for
nothing
office
to do with this
multiple
office.
times. Yes, it does, because it
And the
gives
people
you
are- the
a
people of New Orleans are
platform.
tired of that.
It gives you a platform.
They're tired of that.
To further
Old
your,
school
we've already
old school
agreed
Louisiana
that
politics.
it is a shame that Roe v. Wade has been struck down.
That has
so it
nothing to
is
do
an
with this
issue.
office.
It is an issue.
Not at all.
It's a big issue
And
in
everything,
society.
and
but I
he,
do-
he
but the
also
clerk-
has a problem with dishonesty. In this race
Oh.
alone, he has fabricated a quote from the governor of the state of Louisiana. in terms of saying that he was endorsed by the governor. And we all know the
That is
governor
not
has
true.
said he has not endorsed anyone in
I
this
can
candidacy.
show you the
He
electronic
also,
profile where the
in
governor
his
said he
mailing
is
that just
supporting
hit
me.
the mail yesterday, he has included as an endorser Unity for New Orleans, which is a nonprofit organization, which he has put their 501c3
really
in
quickly,
jeopardy
'cause
by including it.
Really quickly, because I think we can go on and on about this really quickly. The allegation he made, is there any
Yes.
truth to what he just said?
There's
about-
no truth. I
Okay.
don't have any, what did you say that I had?
Criminal record.
That's your stuff. You got to talk
Okay.
about it.
No, you brought it up.
Any,
Oh, what,
yes,
what,
You
what
said
I
I
just
had a
said was
warrant?
she was wanted by the Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office as well as the
I
St.
do
Charles.
not have a warrant.
Okay.
She
And
ta-
then
she might have taken care of
to
it
clean up
because
your
she had the
record, the
fondness
state
for writing bad
legislature
checks.
obviously
That
really
is absolutely incorrect and out of order, Mr. Badon. What he is referring to is a $38 check to Albertsons in 1995 that was taken care of in 1995.
Okay, well, thank you for clearing that up.
And what
This
are
is
the
not
two
a-
criminal expungements on her record?
I don't have any criminal expungements.
And then really quickly, since you brought up your record in the legislature, would you like to clear anything up really quickly? Because we do unfortunately have to wrap up. I appreciate the spirited conversation, but we do have to wrap things
Sure.
up.
You know, in the legislature, I served there for 12 years, and I voted over 20,000 pieces of legislation. But right now, where we are in this campaign is the person who is behind in the polls, just like in every campaign, is taking shots
Okay,
at the
so-
leader.
Go ahead.
And I would beg to differ on that as well. I have not taken, I don't know about a poll, and I would not say that he's the leader and I'm the follower.
All right. Austin Badon, Donna Galapion, we appreciate your time.
And let
This
me
race
just say,
is, go
Travis,
please, really quickly, because we are
let me
about
just
out
say,
of time here.
He never answers the question about the 9 times he voted against a women's right to
Well,
vote. He never addresses
So,
it.
so
Again,
really quickly, if
you were just about to say that, you know, I have said, and I answered your question, that I am for a choice. And then also, you were just about to say, this has absolutely nothing to do with
There-
the
He did
clerk's
not
office.
say
there
that.
are, I agree, the office is very specialized, but there are societal concerns that I think voters do want to know
Absolutely.
about. Unfortunately, I do have to wrap things up. Austin Badon, Donna Galapion, thank you for your time. Election day is November 8th. I know you all will continue to campaign hard. That's all the time that we have. I'm Travers Mackall. You can see this entire episode of The Hot Seat tomorrow on WDSU.com.